Hey everyone, so if you have a limitation in humeral internal rotation, particularly internally rotating to reach up behind the back to touch the opposing shoulder blade, one of the potential reasons for that limitation could be an inability to externally rotate the scapula relative to the humerus, because we need that scapula to externally rotate so the glenoid cavity faces laterally to afford more space for the humerus to internally rotate into and extend. Okay, if the scapula is internally rotated and the humerus is internally rotated, it becomes much more challenging to be able to extend that humerus and internally rotate. So one of the potential strategies that we can use to work towards building that capacity is to work towards facilitating a posterior glide of the humerus, to try and drive the humerus posteriorly, to stretch that posterior capsule, and this can also help us facilitate an external rotation of the scapula at the same time. So the easiest place to start is on the wall, okay? By positioning the humerus at the same level of the shoulder so we can drive that humerus posteriorly. We're going to have the humerus internally rotated. We're going to have the elbow bent at 90 degrees. And really what we're trying to do is to use the mass of our trunk as it glides towards the wall to facilitate that backward force of the humerus to stretch the posterior capsule. Okay, we are going to have to try and maintain a slight extension of the rib cage to facilitate that scapular external rotation as well as we drive the humerus backwards. Because if we flex the rib cage and then drive the humerus backwards, we're likely going to just see this upward motion of the shoulder, because rib cage extension is going to couple with that scapular external rotation. Okay, so we want to, in the early phases, we want to actively drive the sternum towards the wall. But once we feel that stretch in the back of the shoulder, then we want to try and sink the rib cage towards the wall to try and experience more of a passive stretch. And then we're going to hold that for 30 seconds. Okay, so it's going to look like this. So humerus internally rotated, elbow at the same level as the shoulder. Just make sure that the elbow and the shoulder line up so that when I do glide towards the wall, we get that backward glide. Sternum faces the wall. We can have the opposing hand just to stabilize our body, just to make sure we're not twisting the spine as we glide to the wall. Slight extension of the rib cage, and then we're going to actively drive our rib cage towards the wall. And we should be feeling that stretch in the back of the shoulder fairly early on. Once we feel that stretch, then we're going to passively let the rib cage drop to the wall. Okay, and we should be continuing to feel that passive stretch in the back of the shoulder. As you relax the rib cage more and more, you should be feeling a greater stretch in the back of the shoulder from that posterior glide. You might have to change the position of the rib cage if you've lost it. Sometimes you might fall to the left, and so that humerus is pointing to the right in this scenario. So we need to make sure that the elbow is in line with the shoulder, so we're drawing the rib cage directly towards the wall and we're getting that stretch directly in the back of the shoulder. Okay, and then holding that for 30 seconds. Okay, so you shouldn't really be feeling a lot of compression in the front. We should be feeling more of a stretch in the back of the shoulder. Okay, if this is a capacity that your body needs, it will very likely lead to a rapid improvement in humeral internal rotation, again, particularly with reaching behind the back. But it's not a quick fix. It's a local strategy that we can couple with other strategies. Typically, in this scenario here, again, we obviously need to couple it with other objective and subjective information, but generally we are working towards improving humeral flexion, or at least making sure the client can achieve full humeral flexion. Because at the end of humeral flexion, we're going to have to experience that external rotation of the scapula, that extension of the rib cage, okay, and we're also going to have to experience that internal rotation of the humerus in that position. So it facilitates a certain joint behavior that we're trying to facilitate to improve that internal rotation behind the back, just with a different movement strategy. Okay, again, like I said, it's a local strategy. It needs to be coupled with other strategies, needs to be coupled with other important subjective and objective information for the client. But again, it can be used as an important local strategy to help facilitate more variability across the shoulder complex.